Felony charges for 12 protesters that barricaded themselves inside the Stanford president's office.
Dissent is American. Vandalism is criminal.
The DA says these protesters crossed the line, their calculated plan to cause destruction, and the activists who say the charges send a chilling message. San Francisco's mayor opening up Market Street to robotaxis.
They're definitely safer drivers than some of the drivers out in the city.
But not everyone agrees. We'll hear from safety advocates who say it's the wrong way to bring life back to downtown. And a cloud of uncertainty hanging over Oakland schools, and parents want answers.
I was in complete disbelief.
What we're learning about the closed-door meeting over the fate of the superintendent. And later,
I didn't have a cruise booked or anything like that. This is my life's work, one way or the other.
we'll introduce you to the local food bank leader who put her retirement on hold to help her most vulnerable neighbors.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Julette Goodrich.
Good evening. A dozen pro-Palestinian protesters are facing felony charges nearly a year after breaking into the president's office at Stanford and barricading themselves inside. The demonstrators were calling on the university to divest from ventures that support the Israeli military. But Santa Clara County's DA said it's how they carried out their protest that crossed the line.
I will not allow people hiding behind masks to commit crimes.
Our Kara St. Cyr has a reaction to the most serious charges yet tied to the campus demonstrations over the war in Gaza.
Today, the DA spoke a lot about the difference between protest and vandalism, and he wanted to emphasize that these protesters weren't being charged for the message that they were trying to relay, but more so how they chose to do it.
A safety vehicle and graffiti on Main Quad was very startling.
Alex Ellison remembers the day 12 pro-Palestinian protesters barricaded themselves in the Stanford University president's office last June. While she understands the decision behind today's charges, she wonders what it'll mean for the future of demonstrations on campus.
In an ideal world, I think students should be able to protest against things that they believe to be unjust without having to fear the school or local law enforcement coming after them.
Dissent is American. Vandalism is criminal.
Santa Clara County DA Jeff Rosen charged all 12 people, including 8 current Stanford students, with felony charges of vandalism and conspiracy to trespass. Rosen said the defendants broke into University President Richard Saller's office at 5:30 a.m. using hammers and crowbars. The group then formed a barricade with office furniture before spraying the room with fake blood. They occupied the office for almost 3 hours, trashing furniture and ultimately causing $700,000 worth of damage. Rosen says they even brought a manual on how to occupy the building.
They had operational plans, they had lookouts, they were scouting out the area to see what time either uniformed police officers or private security would be around.
The protesters, aged 19 to 32, now face up to 3 years in prison. 4 have already surrendered to the DA's office.
The rule of law includes all of our colleges and universities, because these institutions are not accountability-free zones and are not above or beyond the reach of the California Penal Code.
Zahara Billu, the executive director of the Council on American Islamic Relations in San Francisco, condemned the charges.
This could have and should have been handled through the university disciplinary process. Why are we wasting resources?
The Trump administration has recently revoked visas from hundreds of international students on campuses across the country, including Stanford. While it hasn't given an official reason for most cases, free speech advocates fear it's part of the effort to crack down on pro-Palestinian activism. Rosen says all of the students charged with vandalism are U.S. citizens. But Billu says this sends a frightening message to pro-Palestinian students.
They must now ask themselves, how violent will law enforcement be with us if we choose to protest? And what will be the lifelong consequences, again, of peaceful protest, a long celebrated tradition?
Though the protesters do face jail time, the DA did say that he doesn't want that to be the outcome. Instead, he's hoping for community service.
Now, we reached out to Stanford. A spokesperson told us the university respects the DA's decision. We also asked how the school is disciplining the students involved, and the university says students were suspended for 2 quarters, graduations were delayed, and they had to do community service. Some parents in the Oakland Unified School District are expressing outrage over claims the board privately and unofficially voted to remove Superintendent Kyla Johnson-Trammell from her position by the end of the school year. It remains unclear exactly what happened behind closed doors last night, but board member Mike Hutchinson posted on Facebook that a private exchange became so heated he had to step out, nearly in tears. And now board president Jennifer Broward is pushing back on the reported removal, calling Hutchinson's post misinformation.
We did not vote on that item. And this is why you have reportable actions that the board agrees on that are made public. And it's why you have, the statements that are made by the board, not by individuals.
Johnson-Trammell has led the OUSD since 2017 through some tough times, and all this back and forth is leaving parents looking for concrete answers and uncertain about the priorities of the district.
I feel like parents had finally had some faith in OUSD, and I just don't know that that's going to continue if we have some, interim superintendent.
Meantime, the district is facing a nearly $100 million budget deficit for next school year, meaning if officials don't make significant cuts soon, they could be out of money by November, which could trigger increased state oversight. All right, talk about some scary moments this afternoon in the East Bay when a small fire broke out in a canyon in the Oakland Hills. So this is in Leona Canyon off of Skyline Boulevard. Fire officials telling us the fire that burned an abandoned building and some trees was in an area you can only get to from fire trails. So that's why they had to bring in air support from CAL FIRE.
Without the air support, we would have had a much harder time getting into where this fire is because it's our crews right now are putting about 1,400 feet of hose on the ground just to get to the fire. So it's a pretty challenging fire. Given time of day and the time of year, we got lucky on this one. Had the same fire occurred in August or September, we would be dealing with a whole different animal right here.
Fire officials say they believe this was an encampment. Turning to San Francisco and a change designed to bring some life back to downtown. Mayor Daniel Lurie announced today that Waymo's self-driving taxis will soon be allowed on Market Street in the financial district. It's a roughly 2-mile stretch that has been closed to most traffic since 2020. It runs from Main Street near the Embarcadero all the way to 10th Street. The closure was championed by safety advocates. But not everyone is on board. Our Kelsey Thorne is live in San Francisco with more on this debate. Hi, Kelsey.
Hey, Juliet. Yeah, so as you were saying, this portion of Market Street is really only open to muni buses, trains, and taxis. It's been that way, as you said, for years now. But the mayor is trying to change that. He wants to allow Waymo autonomous vehicles to start picking up and dropping off passengers on this section of Market that has been closed off to cars. But as you said, not everybody is happy with that. We spoke with cyclists, pedestrians, and some transit riders earlier this afternoon.
Because people bike here all the time, whether they're going to Valencia Street.
Christopher White is the executive director of the San Francisco Bike Coalition. He says he wasn't too happy when he heard Mayor Daniel Lurie's announcement that Waymo will soon be allowed to drive on the portion of Market Street closed off to cars.
But this, we think, sends things in the complete wrong direction.
Christopher, along with representatives from Walk SF, Kids Safe SF, and SF Transit riders, worry allowing Waymo onto Market Street will just add to safety concerns.
Market Street, before it was car-free, was also the most dangerous street in San Francisco. And since cars were taken off of it, injury crashes have dropped by 40%, which is huge.
Christopher also told us he's worried the autonomous vehicles could create roadblocks and traffic jams for folks riding muni buses and trains.
No, it's obvious from our experience here in San Francisco that it's very easy for Waymos to brick, and when they do, it's just going to create confusion, unsafe conditions, We don't know how it would affect emergency response. We're concerned about that as well. We just think that this is a bad idea all around.
In his announcement, Mayor Lurie said Waymo would complement the existing transportation options on Market and help bring more people into the area, supporting local businesses and helping to revitalize the city's downtown. Carlos Hernandez is the co-founder of Coffee Bodega off Market. He told us he's all for having Waymo on the street.
Bringing Waymo down to Market will bring more foot traffic onto the Market Street, especially in the downtown area, where we've been struggling a lot to see people return to work. And this could promote people to come back to work.
Christopher, though, is skeptical. He doesn't believe more cars will mean more people. He says the city should focus on making Market Street a can't-miss destination. That's what he believes will really bring people back.
Having festivals, having night markets. I think that creating entertainment zones, which the mayor recently did, is a great idea. Giving people reasons to go to Market Street is the thing that's going to bring Market Street back to life. It's not cars.
And despite the pushback from people like Christopher Julette, the mayor's office says that Waymo employees are going to start mapping this section of Market Street in the coming days so that people can expect to actually hitch rides from Market Street in Waymos here by this summer.
All right, Kelsey, I was looking for some Waymos behind you. I haven't seen them yet, but thank you so much. All right, San Jose city leaders, they are celebrating a step forward in tackling the homelessness crisis at the grand opening of the Berryessa Safe Parking Site. So this is at Berryessa Road near Highway 101. The parking site includes 86 parking spots for homeless residents living in their cars and RVs. One of the site's newest residents, Carol, says she moved in after living on the street for 17 years.
The staff here encourages you and supports you to reach your goals without the violence, the threatening, the drugs, the alcohol that you have on the streets. So there's none of that here. Next time you see me, I'm going to be in my own apartment.
Although the site was projected to cost around $16 million to build, officials say they completed it at half that cost. Still ahead here at 6, why a local food bank director in her early 70s made the choice to put off her retirement and keep serving her neighbors.
The safety net is being shredded right now, and I have a calling to do something about that.
Plus, a small Central Valley community could see their water supply run dry, but it's not the water flow, but cash flow that's to blame.
Temperatures today were still above average, running 5 or 6 degrees above normal in Concord, San Jose, and in Santa Rosa. Not as far above normal as yesterday, but still mild. We'll see how long this is going to continue coming up in the First Alert forecast.
The Trump administration's federal cuts have taken a toll on food banks across the country. Just last month, the USDA canceled $420 million in funding that helps programs buy food directly from local farms. Sunnyvale Community Services is one of the organizations impacted by these cuts. The woman who has been running it over the last 15 years says she's walking away from her retirement plans to help the organization through hard times. Len Ramirez has her story.
Well, the long lines for food distribution here at Sunnyvale Community Service is one indication of the dire need that remains in this community. In fact, some people say it's only getting worse, and that's a big reason why the executive director of this organization has postponed her retirement.
Whoops.
After 71 years and 2 successful careers in tech and nonprofits, Marie Bernard was planning to finally step down and retire in 2025. But with the tanking economy, cuts to social services, and food insecurity on the rise, Marie says now is no time for her to coast off into the sunset.
I didn't have a cruise booked or anything like that. This is my life's work, one way or the other.
So she canceled her retirement to help her organization serve their clients at a time of need.
In my heart, I felt this was the thing to do now. And given all the changes that are happening, The safety net is being shredded right now, and I have a calling to do something about that, and this seems like it's the best place for me to be right now.
Marie has led Sunnyvale Community Service for 15 years. It provides a range of services, including health screening, job and school readiness, emergency financial aid, and of course, food and nutrition. On this day alone, the organization and an army of volunteers gave out more than 1,400 bags of food.
We do like to give them some protein. This week it's frozen turkey.
Ariana Quintero's family was once a food bank recipient. Now she works here serving others.
It helped us through very tight moments.
But looming federal cuts could shift billions in food assistance costs to California and other states, potentially jeopardizing what food banks can provide. And widespread layoffs in the federal departments are being felt right here.
It was already hard to navigate the systems. They weren't always perfect. In fact, we knew they were very imperfect. Now they're not there. And so we've gone from imperfect to nothing for a lot of our clients. And there's also a lot of fear. The chaos is, I think, really going to perpetrate a lot of people falling through the cracks.
It all added into Marie's decision to stay on and use her decades of experience to guide the agency through turbulent times. But one thing she knows for sure, her work is making a difference for people like Martha Mejia.
Do you need the help right now?
Yes,
Why?
Because it's very lot price. There's no more money. This is for help for family. Thank you. For my son, for my child, thank you so much.
Being involved in the community is something that I will cherish and do as long as I can.
And so Marie plans to stay on while still working with her organization to plan for the day when she will step down. Unfortunately for her own retirement plans, she doesn't think that day will come anytime soon.
Sunnyvale Community Services doesn't stop at food distribution. It also provides financial aid and offers job and school readiness support. About 1,300 people in a small community in Stanislaus County are at risk of losing their water supply. We're talking about Diablo Grande. It is a gated community that sits on the east side of the Diablo Range, about 30 miles due east of San Jose. But the only way to get there is off of I-5 near Patterson. And they could all lose their water supply by June 30th. The Kern County Water Agency sent a termination notice to the community's water supplier for non-payment, stating they haven't made a payment since July of 2019 and owe them more than $13.5 million. Meanwhile, homeowners say they've been paying their water bills every month to the supplier, and they're extremely concerned and frustrated.
The last meeting, they talked about trucking water up here. You can take a shower holding the water bottle like this and kind of thing.
A Stanislaus County supervisor says he is working on possible solutions to present to the water supplier, but hopes the state can step up and help before the water is shut off. All right, we'll be right back in just a moment. But first, here's your ski report.
Hey, Johnny Mosley here. Before you pack up your boards and load up your Toyota, let's have a glance at conditions in the Sierra. The Toyota Tile Report is dialed in. Let's get over to the map.
Considering it's the middle of April, this weekend's ski report is actually looking pretty good overall. Of course, there has been zero new snow this week, but despite the lack of fresh snow, most of the resorts are reporting either machine-groomed or variable conditions, and most of the runs are still open. We're showing you Saturday's high temperatures on the map, along with the still substantial snow base reported by each resort today. Highs mostly in the 50s will be about 5 to 10 degrees above average for this time of year, and we should see plenty of sunshine this weekend as well. Overnight low temperatures are only going to fall to the low to mid 30s, which is a little too warm for snowmaking conditions, so you'll have to just make the best of what Mother Nature provided over the past few months. There are some signs of maybe some mid-spring snow later this month. That's pretty far down the line, but we'll be keeping you updated here in the Toyota Tahoe Report.
All right, I was just talking to Paul Hagan about his new maps. It's showing new terrain, so let's take a look at this. What do we have going on here?
Kind of lighten things up on the map, the land part of the map. The ocean looks a little more oceany now.
It looks good on you, too, yeah.
Well, I mean,
lighten things
it
up,
takes some
Paul.
effort, yeah. It's all about the lighting when you
Yes.
reach a certain age.
Yes, it is.
So we're
Anyway.
trying to kind of work through some of the
All right.
little gremlins in the system as well.
I'll
which we
move
haven't
off
found
your
any yet.
topography.
Okay, yeah, don't trip on the Sierra on your way out.
Ouch.
Yeah, there you go. Let's take a look at what is happening out there, what you need to know as we head through the rest of the work week tomorrow. Looking outside from the Mark Hopkins Hotel, just seeing some high clouds, and we'll see a mix of those high clouds and sunshine on Friday. But temperatures are still going to be above average, except maybe right at the coast. It is still going to be breezy by the water tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures over the weekend are going to warm back up. Sunny both Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, the cooler half of the weekend, but Sunday, we really jumped with our temperatures climbing up to about 10 degrees above normal, especially farther away from the bay and the coast. There's a view from Salesforce Tower looking to the west and a little more cloud cover in the distance. Temperatures are backing down, but it's still really nice outside. 62 degrees in San Francisco. The warm spot is 10 degrees warmer, 72 degrees right now in Concord. We are going to see some fog developing as we head through the rest of the night. We had some of that locally dense fog this morning. Let's take a look at Futurecast as we go through the rest of tonight and into early tomorrow morning. And initially the fog is confined to the coast, but it does spread inside the bay as we head past about midnight tonight and spreads farther and farther inland into some of the inland valleys by early tomorrow morning. It'll slow down the morning commute to some extent, so allow a couple extra minutes on the way out the door, but it won't take too long for that to dissipate, and temperatures will warm up from an already warm start. Temperatures tomorrow morning starting off mostly in the low to mid 50s, low 50s in the Santa Clara Valley, even right at the coast. Temperatures are going to bottom out around 50 degrees in both Pacifica and Half Moon Bay, and even the North Bay, some of our usual cool spots. 51 degrees for Petaluma and Santa Rosa, and the temperatures are going to warm up quickly tomorrow afternoon, only to the upper 60s in Petaluma and San Rafael, but that's still above normal. Mid 70s for Santa Rosa and Healdsburg, mostly into the mid 70s east of the Oakland Hills. It won't be 57 degrees in Antioch. That's your low temperature. For some reason, that didn't clear out. Like I said, we're still finding the gremlins. Temperatures in the low 70s in the Santa Clara Valley with mostly 60s around the bay and near 60 degrees right along the coast. Dog walking forecast for tomorrow is brought to you by an adoptable dog, which we do every Thursday from the East County Animal Shelter in Dublin. This is Louise and her baby Blues, and big fluffy dogs like Louise. She's a husky mix. Probably not a fan of the warm temperatures that we had yesterday and that we'll have again on Sunday, but tomorrow I think she'll find this acceptable. Temperatures in the upper 60s to around 70 degrees. I'll put up a link to her information if you were looking for an adoptable pup on social media right after this weathercast. It is going to be breezy tomorrow afternoon. These are the every 6-hour wind gusts for tomorrow and Saturday, and the orange squares correspond to gusts that are over 20 miles an hour, and there will be more of those tomorrow than on Saturday. So the winds are going to start to back down as we head into the weekend, and temperatures are going to warm back up. Let's check out the 7-day forecast, and we'll start at the coast. Some ups and downs, but again, the moderating influence of the ocean does keep your temperatures pretty consistent. Warmest days in the mid-60s, the coolest days dipping back down into the upper 50s. You'll be the closest to normal temperatures over the course of the next 7 days. Around the bay, the warmest days will climb up into the low 70s. So instead of a mix of 50s and 60s, we get a mix of 60s and 70s. And farther inland, we do add a couple of 80s to the mix. In fact, one day in the 80s. That's going to happen on Sunday. So definitely the warmer half of the weekend. It will be the second half of the weekend, 82 degrees for an average temperature inland, and then backing down into the 70s again for most of next week. Jules?
All right, Paul, thank you. When we come back, it's the most dangerous job in film, but it's never had its own Academy Award until now. Plus, here's a look at what's ahead on the CBS Evening News.
At what point does it cost less to raise chickens than buying eggs at the store?
Checking to see if chicken math adds up. That's tonight on the CBS Evening News.
Stunt performers will soon be able to win Oscars. The Academy Awards will be adding a new category, stunt design. So the Academy CEO says stunts have been an integral part of filmmaking since the early days of cinema. More than 100 stunt professionals are members of the Academy's production and technology branch. The inaugural award will be for films released in 2027, so no, Tom Cruise, who's famous for doing his own stunts, won't be in the running just yet. All right, CBS Evening News is next. We continue streaming on our streaming service. We'll see you at 7 o'clock with more local news. Thanks for joining us.